Hi, I'm KS Garner, and you're listening to the Solo Nerd Podcast. Today, I'll be speaking with the creative duo behind the comic series MechaTon, Wells Thompson and Dalton Shannon, both here to discuss the Kickstarter for issues 4 and 5. Welcome, Wells. Welcome, Dalton. Welcome back, I should say.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, nice to be here. I've always wanted to ask, so is the nerd a kind, like, is it a bird that is nerdy, or is the nerd bird a kind of bird?
I guess the bird is nerdy because I've never heard of a nerd bird before. So.
Sure.
Could be an unknown species. Twitter's full of them.
Possibly. I actually don't have any interest in birds, and I'm kind of scared of them. So
that is a valid fear.
So this is a Batman origin story. You're afraid of birds, and so we need to inflict that on others. Okay, all right.
I feel you.
But you guys have been here numerous times, but for those who are, I guess, just tuning in, this would be kind of weird. This would be the first episode of you guys being here for the third time. But for those who don't know who you are, who is Wells Thompson and Dalton Shannon?
Dalton Shannon is a man. Some say man-child from Cabot, Arkansas, I think, who got a. Was it a creative writing degree or digital filmmaking? I never remember.
I got both.
You got a double major or a major?
No. The minor.
Gotcha. Minor in filmmaking.
At
University of Central Arkansas, and he has been working for the corporate man and making his little comics ever since. Co-writer and producer of such works as MechaTon, Frankenstein the Unconquered, Descent into Dread, and some upcoming works as well. The upcoming Depths is going to be under his wing as well.
And Wells Thompson was born when an overdue library book and a dusty bottle of gin decided to have a baby. And what we got was probably the single most pretentious yet heartwarming human being on the face of the earth. Similarly got English degrees from UCA and fell in love with Dalton Shannon. And it's
an unrequited. It's a one-way love.
It's a one-way love. It's perfectly fine though. It makes for great Twitter back and forth. And he's been making comics ever since Dalton convinced him to. And here he is, billions of dollars in debt, and really wishing that he had never met him in the first place.
Well, speaking of the comics that you guys make, MechaTon, what is this series about, and what should readers expect in the upcoming issues 4 and 5?
MechaTon is our all-ages kind of rule of cool book about a glove that falls from space. Anything it punches turns into a giant mech. So 2 siblings who somehow share one brain cell, find it and get into a whole bunch of shenanigans with giant kaiju, corporations, and internet fame. So it's a heck of a ride. It's got great characters, great designs, great energy, and issue 4 and 5 is looking to give us more of that while expanding the world too.
Yeah, 4 sort of brings them into sort of public relevance, and people start to really learn who they are and how that affects their lives. Them sort of dealing with the fallout of what that looks like, whether it's getting nasty calls from their mom asking what the hell is going on, why did I see you on TV fighting a giant bug, I'm worried about you, or whether it's people trying to get them on to sponsor their obviously pretty bad product, and them trying to sort of do that all while juggling fighting giant robots, or fighting giant insects in house-made robots. It's a wild time. And then 5 sort of wraps everything up, brings one of the big bads into the picture, introduces some key characters that will be important moving forward, and really just like shows us how over their heads our main characters are, because they are really I think their heart's in the right place, but they have truthfully should not be doing this at all.
Well, Dalton, you mentioned that MechaTon is the all ages comics, and the last time we spoke, it was about Frankenstein the Unconquered, which is like more intense, has darker themes, violence, and like minimal
Decidedly
color.
not all ages.
Yeah. Whereas MechaTon is like the complete opposite with like tons of color and fun and humor. So how did you two manage, like, how do you manage switching genres like that when you do your writing?
When you have a lot of different voices in your head, honestly, telling you the gremlins tell you what to do. For me, it's just I don't know. It's a switch. It's just fun. Both are fun in very different ways. MechaTon is very bright and vibrant. I don't know. I get that, like, we get this question a lot, and I don't really have a good answer for it because I enjoy all different kinds of media for different reasons, and I enjoy writing different kind of media for different reasons. I love Mad Max Fury Road, and I love it for extremely different reasons, as like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power or Adventure Time. But I love both of those things equally. And I think there's space for both of those things, both in our creative space and for audiences.
Yeah, for the most part, I just like to write what's cool. And if that is giant mechs made out of hot dog carts, or it's Frankenstein's monster cracking the earth in two, like, that's what I'm gonna do.
I mean, both have punching stuff, to be fair. There's a through line. There's definitely a through line.
There's a through line, but MechaTon feels much more in my standard wheelhouse. Like, that's just kind of how I write normally. It's very fast. It's a bit quippy, really action heavy, and the characters interact really well together. Frank, I feel like I have to work a little harder on because I have to take it more seriously, and I have to. I always have the set pieces in my head, and I'm like, okay, how do I fit these set pieces into an actual narrative? And we build it from there. So it's not so much a switch, I think, as it is like just I don't know, shuffling papers around until I find what I'm looking for, and then I'm good to go.
Yeah, I mean, has there ever been a time where you kind of like mixed them together? Like, oh, I can't put this in MechaTon, it would have to go into Frankenstein, or I can't put this in Frankenstein, it would have to go here. Or
I don't
like mix them up by mistake or anything like that.
I do notice sometimes in Frankenstein, especially with our character we introduced in the last Kickstarter issue, Larry. I do notice Larry might get a little too quippy for the world of Frankenstein, and we have to really pull that back because he's the only character in that book that really has any sort of sense of humor, and so we go a little hard in that direction. Sometimes we have to pull back. But MechaTon, I don't ever find ourselves getting too serious. And if we do get super like heavy, then we always have somebody in there to put a pin in it and kind of deflate it a little bit.
For me, it never ends up on the page, but I will just be out in the world and I'll think, oh, that's a really funny joke. But it's way too adult to put into MechaTon. Like, it's always like, oh, this is hilarious, but it is like extremely, usually not like violent graphic, just like, has some coarse language or has some innuendo that isn't appropriate for all ages that makes me hesitate and be like, I wish I could put this somewhere, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, the first few drafts of MechaTon, actually, we had to pull some of that back. I'm pretty sure Derek and Leah had some light potty mouths on them, where I was like, I think we're going for something a little lighter here, so we had to really pull that back.
That was sort of still finding the tone, and that we were still figuring out that it was really all ages. Hey, Noodle, my Noodle has decided that she is co-opting the microphone. Say hi, Noodle. But yeah, I think there was a joke early on where it's that scene where they're playing video games and Derek asks if Leah wants to play. And I think the original dialogue, as it ended up in the comic, it's like, I'm a humble observer. And in the original dialogue, it was something like, oh, I just like to watch. And he goes, pervert. And it was like, it's not like that's super offensive or over the top, but we just, as we developed more of what MechaTon was and sort of brought the style together, we realized it was sort of overstepping where we wanted the comic to be by like just a hair. So yeah, that, like, saying that in that way, probably we figured wasn't appropriate. And there are lots of jokes that start off one way and then we quickly go, that doesn't ever stop the book from being funny, or we always wind up finding a better joke. But there are moments where we're like, if only this wasn't, an all ages book.
Well, after all the issues you guys made and all the years of collaborating with each other and with other people, what's the most difficult aspect of making comics? And what's the one that never gets easier even after years of experience?
The cash.
I was trying to find a delicate way to say money, but money. That kind of is.
Unless you're a jack of all trades cartoonist who can really put pen to paper and make something yourself, comics is unfortunately at this point a bit of a money game, and you have to be willing to pay your artists, which they're totally worth that. But if you're ill-equipped to assemble a team and make sure everybody's compensated fairly for their time and work with people, then comics are going to be an uphill battle.
For sure. Yeah, if not for Kickstarter, we would not be working on 4 comics right now. We would be working on maybe 1. It's a hard maybe. No, it can be very demotivating at times. Even when we have really big successes, at the end of the day, we look at the numbers and we're like, we're basically breaking even, which is great. That's much better than where we were 2 years ago. Yeah. And at the same time, it's that puts a hard limit on how much you can produce. There are a lot of books that I wish I could be making right now, but I just don't have the money for it. There's no way I could, scrounge together the cash for everything that we're doing, and also another graphic novel and another series, and maybe one day. And time is obviously the other thing. Being constrained to Kickstarters means that we're constrained to a period where we're working on, we're putting one book out on Kickstarter, whether it's MechaTon or Frankenstein or something else. So for that 1 month, and really there has to be kind of buffer time on either side of it. So really 2 months at a time, you're only working on one thing, or you're only funding one thing. So yeah, it's sort of the limits of logistically what you're able to do versus what you want to do.
The worst part about comics is that you'll never be able to make as many as you want.
True.
Like that's the hard realization, because everyone goes into comics wanting to tell like this grand epic, this like multi-year long thing that they've got plotted out with all these great characters and things, and like that's just not feasible, especially in an indie market. So like learning to retool those ideas and follow different paths, being adaptable is like the best thing you can be in comics, so that you can actually get something out there into the world that isn't a compromised version of what you want.
For sure. I'll say the flip side of that is, at least for me, what doesn't change is like the joy of creating, and the joy of like following the characters and writing and learning their voices and working in different genres and coming up with different stuff. I recently, a couple months ago, before I moved and completely uprooted my entire life, I had the opportunity to just sit down and for a week work on something that had been kind of rolling around in my head for, a couple months, as just like, let's see where this goes. And it was a genre. It was like an adventure romance kind of work, something I hadn't really worked in before, that I didn't think I would be good at. And it turned out to be some of the most fun I've ever had writing. And that comes at, not the tail end of my career by any stretch of the imagination, but like after we've already been putting out, 2 books, we've got another graphic novel that's in production right now. We've got, stories and anthologies and such. So it's really reassuring to know that we're not running out of ideas.
And getting to work with all sorts of different voices to bring these books to life. Like the team behind MechaTon is so talented, and this book would definitely not exist without them. And every time we get new pages in, whether it's the art, the colors, the letter, like every single step is always exciting, because it's something that was just in here and now it's out there, and that part never isn't cool.
Uh-huh.
Noodle. Dang it, Noodle.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be our podcast, and you're over here being Noodle. Can't stand that.
Right. Well,
he's just being good.
Speaking of, I guess, of new ideas that you guys come up with, when you come up with them and you write them out with however it may be, right? Do you ever think, oh, I'm going to go somewhere with this, or it's just, I want to get it out of my head and onto the page just to see what I can do with it? Not even thinking about anything later on down the line. Or do you actually come up with ideas and be like, oh, this would be great as a full-fledged comic, even as a one-shot or maybe multiple issues?
I think it's a little of both. I think you, to Dalton's point earlier, you want to be adaptable, and you want to, like, I usually come on with an idea of like, this is good for a short, this is good for a mini series, this is good for a maxi series, this is good for a graphic novel, based on just kind of how much meat I feel like is on there, how many kind of big story beats I see there. And sometimes I'm right on the money and I can get 8 pages out of it. And that 8 pages, gets me into an anthology and I'm, feeling really good about it. And other times I'm completely wrong. And what I thought was a 4-page script turns into a 68-page script that is an entirely different beast. And occasionally your ideas are bad, like not yours, Dalton, like mine too, like everyone's.
Everyone has bad ideas.
Yeah, everyone has. Occasionally you're like, oh, this will be great. And then you work on it and you're like, this is just god awful. I should really not put any more time into this. And in that case, you just kind of, you say, I'm glad I put this out there. I'm glad I wrote something down. And then you try and salvage bits and pieces of it. This was a cool moment. How do I recreate this elsewhere in a story that works? But yeah, no, I always want something to come out of my ideas. I don't want to waste my time with it. And I have a compulsion to ask my wife. She when I say, hey, I've been having an idea, she's just counting the days until I'm like, so here's what I'm thinking, and just kind of break without her asking, just break the entire thing down to her. She's, but yeah, no, I always want to tell stories. I always want to be, in one form or another, comics or movies or novels or something. I always want to put it out somewhere. So there's always purpose behind it, but where it ends up exactly, you have to be kind of adaptable for.
Yeah, same over here, but most things that I start working on, I don't know, they always have like an end goal. Like I always tend to know going in if this is going to be a mini or how many issues or what. And it's always comics. I don't ever write anything else because I don't like anything else. But but
you like film, okay? You were pretty good at it, as I recall.
I can write film, but I don't care about film like I do comics. And also, I'll never make film. That's even more expensive than comics.
True. Facts.
So when I'm writing, there's always an end goal in mind, but the end goal isn't always necessarily, I guess, publication. I don't know. I'm a different kind of writer than Wells in that for me, the end goal isn't always having it like right there in front of me or people reading it the world over. Like if I finish a creative project and I've reached a point where I can say that I'm done with it, that feels good to me. Regardless of if anybody actually sees it. Of course, I do want people to see it. That's why we're here. But MechaTon is different from projects that are in binders in the office that are just full of ideas that I thought had legs, and then I did them, and I was like, okay, that's it. That's good. I'm done with it. I don't have to publish this anywhere. It's fine. So yeah, it's a very solitary game until you start bringing people in, and then and then because it was a solitary game, you start like getting the sweats. You're like, do they actually like this? Oh my god. Okay, Fernando's drawing giant house robots. Does he think this is cool, or is he thinking we're idiots? I don't. Oh god.
Well,
he's being kind of modest. It's not just like he has, a little binder full of ideas. He has like 3 binders. That's one idea. That's like 70 issues of a maxi series that he's been making since he was 16. So don't let him fool you. He's got a bunch of stuff in the tank. I read the first 4 issues of it, and I'm like, okay, so thoughts. Issue 1 can't be 60 pages. Let's just throw that out there right now.
40. I was young. I was stupid.
Ambitious. You are ambitious.
Well, I guess speaking on growth and whatnot, especially with MechaTon, the first issue is supposed to be going into stores, right? Is it going to be like nationwide, or is it going to be like locally? How is that going to work?
No, absolutely. So Scout, or more accurately Scoot, the YA imprint of Scout, is publishing, sort of in the aftermath of the Kickstarter, publishing MechaTon to go out into the direct market. So it'll be in stores. Issue number 1 will be in stores on March 29th, yeah.
39th.
I really almost said 39th. No, March 29th, it'll be in stores. And depending on when this comes out, there's still time to talk to your LCS about ordering some copies. The 26th and the 27th, the cutoff days of this month. So if you're listening to this and you want to pick it up in stores rather than on Kickstarter, that's great. Go talk to your store about it. They've probably received an email from us. Yeah. And if they live in alphabetically the back half of the states, they've almost certainly received a postcard.
And you get cool exclusive covers that you're only going to get at the shop that we didn't have on Kickstarter. The issue has gotten a bit of a remaster, as well as has called it. Some paneling's been adjusted, some dialogue. Nothing so tweaks, extreme
color,
that it's
changes.
Nothing like the original trilogy remasters, but
no.
Obi-Wan does show up as a Force Ghost, though.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why that happens. And on the other side, there's no way to get the individual issues other than issue 1. Issue 1 will be going to stores, but then it just goes straight to trade. They're not doing 2, 3, 4, 5. So the only way to get those is through the Kickstarter. So if you're a floppy collector, I recommend you go to the Kickstarter.
Or you can get all 5 right now.
It's true.
Well, how does a creator go about getting their stuff in stores? Do they have to go to the local comic shop and you're like, hey, can I sell my stuff here? Or is it like pre-orders or?
So, I mean, pairing up with Scout, obviously, huge help. They're in Diamond, they're in Lunar, the distribution companies. And they have a name and a reputation, which is great, that they trust, we have a book that they believe in strongly enough, they're willing to put their name behind it and the sort of trust behind that name. But then other than that, it is ultimately just one book in a very, very, very large catalog of previews. So it was incumbent on us to contact stores and talk to people and get them excited about the book. When I say that they probably received an email from us, I meant I sent well over 1,000 emails. And we sent out together about 400 postcards to shops all across the nation, introducing ourselves, introducing the book, getting people excited about it. It's a big undertaking, but I'm super excited at the prospect of seeing this out in the world.
So what about the Kickstarter? What are some rewards for potential backers? I mean, other than, getting other copies of, issues pretty much 1 through 5.
Yeah, absolutely. We have tons of variant. We have 2 variant covers per issue. So we have 3 covers per issue total, 6 covers total. That includes a exclusive cover that will only ever appear on Kickstarter. We're not going to sell it at conventions. We're not going to make more than are requested for us from the Kickstarter. That also includes a iridescent foil cover, which is very pretty and shiny, and I don't have one on me right now, but it is we print it through a Comics Wellspring. They do a phenomenal job. with their materials and their thing, and it makes the entire book just shine and pop in a way that I've never seen a iridescent foil cover do. We also have, obviously, your catch-up rewards. If this is your first time getting into MechaTon, we have the entire series for you, whether it's just the one of each issue standard cover, or if you want to get every cover that we've ever done, that is available for you as well. We have stickers, we have prints, we have annotated scripts with our notes and like extra jokes and stuff in there and how it relates to what was put on the page. And we have some unique stuff as well, like commissions and an adopted page tier. So you can put your name in the book as like, hey, I helped make this page, as well as get a one-of-a-kind print for you to hang up in your home. That's the page in its completion with your name on it. So yeah, we try and cater to everyone, whether you're, whether you want to chip in $10 to help make the series happen, or you want to like really get a unique experience and get stuff that only you will ever get to see. Then yeah, no, that it's all available for you.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the Kickstarter page right now, and I was just looking for the foil cover and trying to see which one it is, but I guess it's the one that's like it has a low opacity on it. I guess you can't really show that.
It's hard.
It's so yeah, showing it in just still images is really, really difficult. It's more impressive in a video, and even the picture of what we saw, we haven't physically printed those out, so we don't know exactly what those are going to look like, but we do know what the old ones look like, and they're super beautiful. Really like stunning, have like stunning patterns on them. The interior pages are a lot glossier. The colors pop a lot more. It really is like the ultimate collector's issue of the book, and really we only make about 25 of them per issue. Mm-hmm. So it is really, really exclusive.
Okay. Yeah. And I know you said this, like some of the covers, the variant covers, you're not going to sell at cons or anything like that.
Yeah, the Ile Gonzalez Pride cover and the Lane Lloyd Transformers homage cover, we're making the amount that we make, and we're not selling at cons. We're not selling anywhere else. It just goes out through this Kickstarter, and that's it. Mm-hmm.
But are either of you going to any cons, like vending at any cons, like selling MechaTon and Frankenstein Unconquered or anything like that this year?
Inevitably. I don't know that I've got any locked in at the moment, but inevitably we will be at a good handful of cons.
Yeah, we're for sure going to St. Louis Fan Expo. We're signed up for that one. We're going to Arkansas Comic-Con 100%. We're there every year. It's always a great show for us, and it's our home turf. It's where we're both from. No reason not to go there. We aren't going to be vending at C2E2, but I am going to be there personally. So if you're going to C2E2 this year, find me, say hi. I would love to meet you. And we're actively looking for a lot more conventions to go to. It's just been a very busy end of last year, beginning of this year. We haven't really had time to go scour and look for conventions yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, is there anything else that either of you want to touch on about MechaTon, or about maybe Frankenstein the Unconquered, or anything else that you two might be up to this year? Do you want to let listeners know?
MechaTon is a lot of fun. I love making comics. Please go support the book so I can keep making comics.
If this was the Kickstarter that didn't go through and it's the end of the first arc, that would be bad for everybody, because
it would be heartbreaking.
Even following MechaTon, you're just not going to get the ending to the first arc. Like, I'm sorry, just so it's in your best interest to go back the book.
You don't have a choice. Go back the book. No, I think this is actually the best place for people who have never experienced MechaTon before, and there's a lot of you out there. My math isn't great, but 7 billion people on Earth, roughly 400 people reading MechaTon so far. I think there's a little bit of room for growth there. I know I personally I am hesitant to get a series that is on issue 1. I'm hesitant to get a series that's only has a little bit out, and because I want to read a full story and I want to experience it in long form. So this is the full first arc as we intended it, 5 issues long. We have obviously more coming, but if in terms of like a bite-sized story chunk, I think that this is a great place to get in and get caught up on the series and be satisfied with what's available.
Yeah. I'm doing more cons and stuff now, and I always try to tell people, if you have a series of whatever, books, comics, whatever it may be, to always have more of the first one in the last one, because like you said, people are less likely to invest in an entire series. They're most likely to just buy the first one or all of them. Maybe or all of them, or maybe just the last one. So say like they've been like buying them as you go. Right. And then say like a lot of people have issues 1 through 4, but they don't have the last one. So they'll more likely buy, or even just in this case, they'll buy the last 2 because they already had the first 3. So just have more of the first one, and then more of, I guess, whatever the last one that you publish.
Well, the trade, more of the first one, more of the trade.
Yeah,
it's generally like when you get them all collected, because those are generally what people spring for. They want to check out the series and kind of get a feel for it before they commit to the full thing, and then they want the full thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, I want to thank the duo behind the comic series MechaTon, Wells Thompson and Dalton Shannon, for joining us here today to discuss the Kickstarter for issues 4 and 5, currently up now. All of Wells and Dalton's socials alongside the Kickstarter will be listed in this episode's details for those who are interested. Again, I'm KS Garner, and you've been listening to the Solo Nerdbird podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.